Hello, my name is Gillian Kendall and I'm a Careers and Employability Advisor at the University of Central Lancashire. Welcome to this short presentation on top tips for assessment centres. So hopefully today you will gain an understanding of assessment centres and you'll also be aware of the process and what's expected of you. So, assessment centres, what would you expect from an assessment centre? What is it? Well, an assessment centre is the last stage of the recruitment process for a large number of employers. Those that are recruiting a significant amount of participants and candidates, they will ask them to go to a assessment centre because they feel that it gives them an insight into how you'll perform in real life situations, and also an impression of how you will work with your peers, and most importantly how you will cope under pressure. And that's something that they can't determine when you're in a panel interview. So the exercises that you'll be tested on are to evaluate things that they can't then determine within a traditional interview setting. The process as well usually lasts a day. However, things may go on to 2 separate days now that largely these assessment centres are being conducted virtually. So with regards to the makeup of a assessment centre, then usually, like I say, it's a day, or some of these, you might do a few of these on one day and they might ask you to go back another day and do another few of these tasks. Some employers will use all of them and this will be a typical layout of the day. Others will have different tasks that they might then want to add into this, but they might still have a role play and an icebreaker, etc. So it's just a rough guide of what's available on the day. So generally the icebreaker is whereby you'll introduce yourself to your other candidates and also to the company, say who you are. They might ask you to do a particular task about, something that not everybody would know about you, or as part of the icebreaker they might ask you to chat to other people within the room and then you've got to give a feedback on them. You then will get an introduction about the company, generally from the graduates who are working there, other employees, and also people that are higher up in management. You will also be expected to conduct an interview, and that could be anything from a one-to-one interview to again being a panel interview. They might even ask you as part of that interview to conduct a presentation, and that might be one of the tasks that they might actually get you to do on the day, that they will give you some data, a scenario, and you will have to then present that to the panel. However, it could be something that you are expected to do and prepare beforehand, and you will then present it on the day. Some companies will ask you to do a role play, and that could be like a group work exercise to see how you all interact together, or maybe how you respond to certain situations, and how then again you cope under that pressure. Some organisations will ask you to do like psychometric tests, aptitude tests, and they generally will be either verbal reasoning, numerical and situational judgment. However, there's other assessments that employers might then deem as suitable, and generally you will be told about those in your welcome letter and welcome to the recruitment process. You could always then, maybe if they don't send you any details about that, you could always then ring the company and ask them what particular aptitude tests they might be asking you to complete. And obviously the more you practice these, because they are timed tests, then the better and more chance you've got. With regard to a technical exercise, so that all depends on what particular area you're going into. So for example, maybe the business side, computing, with regards to systems, engineering, they might ask you to do a technical exercise. So research has shown that quite a number of students are put off by going to assessment centres. As soon as they see the word assessment centre, then the dropout rates seem to significantly decrease. So the amount that's actually going through to an assessment centre is considerably less. So they've passed the first initial screening to do with maybe CV, application form, maybe even some online assessments, and people have gone through that process, maybe even in a video interview, and then it gets to the assessment centre, and then a high amount of students back out. I would then turn that on its head and think, right, okay, well, if a lot of people are backing out, I need to ensure that I'm part of this process. I need to be then that I can then compete against all these other people, and I need to ensure that I'm preparing the most I can prepare to ensure that I am going to come across the best that I can. So don't quit, don't drop out, give it a go. The more that you practice and you go to these assessment centres, the more confident you'll be. So generally you'll arrive at 9, finish at 5:30. Like I say, when about arriving, it's not necessarily arriving at the employer's premises. By and large, it's going to be arriving at your desk, somewhere suitable at home, so you can then conduct yourself within this assessment centre. So this is roughly what the day looks like. So I'll go on later to talk about when it says lunchtime. So even when you're online, and maybe you stop for lunch or you stop for a break, some of the employers might hide themselves from view, and they're still online assessing you to see how then you interact with others and interact with your peers. So whenever there is a break, unless you've actually logged off and they've told you that you can log off, then just deem that as also you're still being assessed. So an example of a group exercise. It's not really role play, but again, they might want you to do some group exercises to see how you perform as a team. So you're stranded on a desert island, you've got 20 minutes to discuss your plan and complete the task. Somebody will need to, you should nominate one person to give feedback at the end. So the first task is to decide whether you stay on the island or whether you leave. And then with regards to then staying on the island, you've got to decide what objects you feel are essential to your survival. And you're then given, maybe within pairs, like a ball of rope or twine or a first aid kit, and you've got to decide which one then you're going to keep. Is it going to be the machete or the mirror? Is it going to be the twine or rope, or is it the first aid kit? What do you keep and why? So with this particular exercise, there's not really any right or wrong answer. What the employer is looking for is to see how you work within that team. If you nominate yourself, how you put across your group findings, how you justify those findings. And don't be alarmed if then one of the employers will interject and say, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? That's not then saying you've done something wrong. This is again just chucking in another way to look at things and to see how you respond to that and how you then talk about that. So the aptitude tests, like I say, there's a whole number of different aptitude tests that are available, and on our Career Edge system you can actually go onto and practice all these different assessments. So like I say, they are timed, and when you go on and practice on our Career Edge system, it gives you then a report to say what questions you answered right and why, and also the ones you've answered wrong, why you've answered them wrong. So it's a really good thing to do to then get back as well about how you're answering them accurately. So really spend some time having a look at those. This is an example of a verbal reasoning question, and you can see in the top left hand corner, it's the question is one of 30. You've got 25 minutes. The question is, China's one-child policy increases the country's wealth. Is that true? False? You can't say. And you've got to then read that lengthy paragraph and decide whether it's true, false, or you cannot say. So again, it's nothing too difficult. You get choices. It's just then being prepared that this is the sort of thing that you might then be asked, and then also how you're going to respond. When it comes to the interview side of things, we would say to you to use this acronym and think about this when you're responding with your answers. It's the STAR technique, which is situation, task, action, result. So when you're thinking about answering some of the questions, so with regards to like communication skills. So tell them about a situation that you used effective communication skills, what you were tasked with, what your action was, and then what was the result of you using those effective communication skills. So it's all about structuring your answer, so you don't just obviously give them a one-word reply. It's more about thinking how then you can expand on that answer, and an employer really wants to see how you've shown those results. What difference have you made to that particular project you've done at university, to something that you've maybe done at your work experience part-time in a shop or something like that. So my top tips for assessment centres are to prepare and to practice. Get an understanding of that assessment centre. Look at the mission statement and values of that company, and then you'll have more of an understanding. Use effective body language, whether that is online or whether that is face-to-face. Use effective body language. Use appropriate language as well. Take your time. Keep calm and show confidence and enthusiasm. That is what employers are wanting to see. Be professional at all times, like we said before, as it's likely you will be being assessed at all times, even breaks and at lunchtime. Engage with others who are doing the assessment centre. So if like you're kept in a waiting room virtually, or whether that's physically, you're in a waiting room, start to talk to people who are there, because you never know that person could help and support you when you're going through these other tasks, and get to know what they're like, and maybe how then you can help them, and then also maybe how they can then help you later on through the process. Like I said a moment ago, research the employer about the assessment centre and find out what competencies and skills they are looking for. Try and show skills such as resourcefulness, leadership, communication, teamwork, negotiation, and also technical skills. So, like I say before, with regards to the role plays, some senior managers and assessors could be actually involved in that. It might not just be actors, so just be mindful of that. One of the things as well is to dress appropriately, and we'll talk about that with regards to the virtual assessment centres. With regards to being on video, the temptation is to sit in maybe a quiet, dark room. Then maybe you might dress in a shirt or a nice comfortable top, and you then from the bottom and maybe dressed in jogging bottom shorts or something like that. Dress appropriately. Give yourself that power dressing, so you feel that strength psychologically for moving forward with the task that you're going to be given. So like we said, with regards to where on a virtual assessment centre to place yourself, obviously you need to be in a room that's appropriate, that you can be for quite a long period of time and you won't be interrupted. However, you then need to think about the lighting to make sure what's behind you then doesn't reflect on you or detract away from you. So you've got to bear those things in mind. Make sure you're on time as well. Log in using the URL codes that you get at least 10 minutes before, to ensure that you know that any technical issues or whatever you should be able to resolve within that 10 minutes. Charge your laptop and ensure that you then turn off your phone. Maybe some people like to do this and it gives them confidence, others don't, is maybe to put yourself little hints and tips and pointers maybe at the back of where your screen is. Something that's not going to distract you, but maybe if then you just need a little hint and tip, then you can look at the side and it might just help you move you on with regards to that point. Always ensure that you give good eye contact. When it's a virtual assessment, try not to look at the bottom right hand screen and look at the little screen at the bottom. Try and keep your eyes focused on your camera, and that will hopefully then promote a good impression to the employer. Like I said, our careers edge system has lots of different hints and tips with regards to the assessment centres. Also, we can conduct a mock interview, which will form part of your assessment centre is the interview, so we can conduct mock interviews. You can also use the interview simulator, and you can do a mock interview at home in the privacy of your own home if you feel that's better. There's practice aptitude tests, like I say, that give you a report. There's a whole host of other things, so please utilise that. And that is the end of the presentation today. So thank you very much for listening.